As we seek to create opportunities for all, it is clear that quality, accessible education is the fastest and most effective way to change the fortunes of our continent and join the group of developed nations and continents. Over the course of the last 3 elections in Ghana, one consensus emerged across all the various political groupings. We all agreed that the economy of Ghana had to be transformed to make it a high-income country. We agreed that graduates from our educational institutions should enter the labor market well-equipped with skills for good, well-paying jobs. To do this, our country had to move from an economy dependent on the export of raw materials to an economy of value addition. We had to process the natural resources we have to enable us reap higher benefits. It is sad that 60 years after Ghanaian independence and 57 years after Nigerian independence, the progress we have made has been much slower than it should have been. It is time to take the bold moves that will enable us make rapid progress to transform our economy and the lives of Ghanaians, Nigerians, and Africans. A society that aims to transform itself into a modern, productive player in the global market needs an educated workforce. And that means it must get its educational policies right. Luckily for us, this is a well-trodden path, and there are many examples to learn from. The societies that have made rapid progress around the world have all put education at the heart of their development. The United States of America, the first country to institutionalize free education, did so in the mid-19th century. The nations that we started independent life with, like Singapore, Malaysia, and Korea, have done it. Let us take the Singapore example. At independence from Britain in 1959, and then separation from Malaysia in 1965, Singapore had no assets other than its deep water port. Its population was illiterate and unskilled. It had few natural resources, substandard housing, and recurring conflict amongst the ethnic and religious groups that made up its population. Singapore at the time imported most of its food, water, and energy. Singapore's leaders decided to make education the focus of all their efforts at development. They saw education as central to building the economy and the nation. Once the decision was taken, they rapidly built schools and recruited teachers on a large scale. Within 6 years, they had attained universal primary education, and by the early 1970s, they attained universal lower secondary education, and they have never looked back since then. Today, Singapore is widely acknowledged as having one of the world's leading economies and most advanced and successful education systems. In a country with no natural resources, this is a remarkable feat and reiterates what one of its prime ministers famously said, and I quote, "The wealth of a nation lies in its people," unquote. Our two countries, and indeed Africa, unlike Singapore, are blessed with natural resources and it should be easier to educate our population once we summon the courage to make the right decisions. Leadership is about making choices. It is for this reason that my government has made education one of its topmost priorities. We have decided to use the proceeds. From our natural resources to help educate the population to drive our economic transformation. Instead of the revenues from our mineral and oil resources ending up in the hands of a few people, I am of the firm belief that the most equitable and progressive way of using these resources is to educate and empower our population. To this end, some 2 weeks ago, I launched the free senior high school policy to ensure that no child is denied access to secondary education. We have removed one of the biggest obstacles that currently stand in their way: cost. The cost of providing free secondary education will be cheaper than the cost of the alternative of an uneducated and unskilled workforce that has the capacity to retard our development. A recent report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, has estimated that providing every child with access to education and the skills needed to participate fully in society would boost GDP by an average 28% per year in low-income countries for the next 80 years. The countries that have made rapid progress around the world put education at the heart of their development. Again, research has shown that people are better prepared to prevent disease and to use health services effectively when they are educated. We can conclude without any equivocation that young people who have completed at least primary or secondary education are less than half as likely to contract HIV as those with little or no schooling. Indeed, educated mothers will undoubtedly also have healthier children. According to the Center for Global Development, in many poor countries, with each additional year of schooling, people earn 10% higher wages. These earnings, in turn, contribute to national economic growth. No country has ever achieved continuous and rapid growth without reaching an adult literacy rate of at least 40%. All over the world, access to education will help in the growth of democracy, political stability, and civil society advocacy. It will also allow citizens to learn about their rights and responsibilities and help them acquire the requisite skills and knowledge to exercise them. To those of you students listening to me today, I say you are living in perhaps the most exciting times in our history. Most of you have grown up under the longest uninterrupted period of democracy in our history in Africa. This period has also coincided with the longest sustained period of growth in our economy. Democracy has been good for us, and it will be even better for us. Some say this is our time. I say this is your time, and tomorrow will be the time of your children. I want every child to attend school, not just for what they learn in books, but for the life experiences that they will gain. I want each of them to look in the mirror in the morning, every morning, and know that they can achieve